Hey there. So, do you remember the 2008 Pixar movie called Wall-E? In it, we're presented with a dystopia in which humanity have to leave Earth and live on a spaceship called Axiom. But the relevant part is that humans are presented like these giant babies, that they're just moving around on these chairs, eating junk food all day long, and being entertained with these screens that they only have empty content. They don't have any sort of real interaction between them. They don't even know who's next to them. But most importantly, they don't have any purpose, and robots have replaced them entirely in terms of jobs and the market labor. So it's actually a very nice movie to watch, and I recommend it. But the key message here is that humans have nothing to do in terms of jobs because robots have replaced them. Okay, so this is 2008. So we're gonna do the same exercise as in the first episode that I recommend you to go and watch. And let's time travel from 2008 until today, remembering that in 2008, in the trailer of the movie, it was an easy joke to speak about the humans who brought a movie and this idea of humans versus robots. Of course, no one would worry about that. So now let's time travel until today, when we have the latest Stanford report about job replacement that is already ensuring that up to 16% of AI exposed entry-level jobs are being replaced by AI. Okay, by AI exposed, it means disciplines in which it's quite easy for the current AI, to replace cognitive tasks. And it speaks about specific industries, and one of them is related to law firms. Okay, and they say that in these cases, law firms are deciding to use AI rather than hire just graduated students in their first entry-level job, which is a paradox because law firms really depend on very senior and high experienced lawyers. But those, to get to that point, first they need to have 20 or 30 years in that firm to become that. So the question is, who are going to be those very senior lawyers in the future? But yeah, never mind. And this sort of reports is related to news like this, right? So the AI assistant from Amazon decided that the code that had been done by humans was inadequate, so it had to delete it and restart. The actual quote from the AI is that delete and recreate the environment was the best decision to make, okay? So we're thinking, okay, it's real, they're going to replace us. But yet this caused multiple outages in the Amazon services and a lot of problems and issues. So in a way, the Harvard Business Review is quite confident to say that companies are laying off people because of AI's potential and not its performance. Yet, we don't have enough evidence to ensure that it's a good decision to replace a task done by a human with AI. And an example of that is how, in theory, currently an AI could learn all the knowledge that a surgeon has in just 9 seconds. Yet, I believe none of us would feel confident with a robot intervening in our body, right? So, companies like IBM, gigantic companies, are aligned with this sort of thought process, and they're saying, okay, let's triple the amount of Gen Z entry-level jobs, okay? Because yet AI is making too much mistakes. I want to really invest in human young talents. And then Claude comes in and he says, okay, wait. It's not just potential. We really are doing tangible releases and features that can very clearly replace what has been done until now by humans, okay? And week by week, they continue to release new features and people are going nuts, okay? Because they're replacing pretty much any industry. But the thing again is we need to understand how much of these features are easily to adopt by humans. And something that sounds odd is that one of the main architects, one of the main engineers of this CLAD model, which is, to remember, Anthropic's model, says that the role of the software engineer might disappear soon. So it's kind of crazy to think that the company that is releasing the best products are saying that the job of the engineer might disappear. And the explanation is given by its CEO, Dario Amore, which says, yeah, those features that you're seeing, 90% of the code is written by AI and not by humans. So this sounds quite crazy. And in a way, the explanation is that we have migrated, or we are currently migrating, from the traditional coding, in which is humans writing down the code, to the vibe coding, which is human interacting in natural language with AI, telling it what to do, and then they vibe check and they vibe debug. So they are telling or working with an AI, and the AI is doing the work. And that's why they say that it's up to 90% done by AI. But let's put a pause here. It's fair to say that 200 years ago, more than 90% of the world's jobs were related to farming, and currently only 2% of the world's jobs are related to farming. We can even go closer and say that close to 80% of current jobs didn't even exist 25 or 30 years ago. So, in other words, new jobs will appear thanks or due to AI. Okay, so we shouldn't worry much because new jobs are going to appear. And that's actually already happening. For instance, this is in the Google DeepMind lab. We see this guy that it's guiding the robot on its movement so that it can learn and shortly in the future do it by itself. So this is kind of an example of a positive or a neutral new job that is arising. But on the other side, we're already seeing very horrible situations like these Kenyan workers that they are employed by OpenAI via a third-party institution in Kenya to do, of course, very overworked and underpaid roles. It's important to remember that in Kenya, at least in young people market, they have an employment rate of up to 67%. Okay, so people are really willing to work whatever the conditions they are. And one of the main roles related to the AI is tagging different videos and images so that the AI system can then learn from this. Okay, so they dedicate maybe 12 or 10 hours a day to tagging that, for instance, this is a ripe tomato and that is a ripe tomato. So ultimately, the AI will understand by its own in the future that this sort of tomatoes is a ripe tomato. So this doesn't look too bad. But these people here, and this sir on the left is who's guiding and leading these conversations, his name is Aftali, are exposing that they are now dedicating 10 to 12 hours a day to watch very, very horrible and grotesque images and videos like murderings or sexual abuse, because they need to tag that and explain what it is to the AI. And currently now they have very severe mental health issues, okay? And OpenAI, of course, doesn't care about this. And it's easy to understand that they don't care when we see its CEO, Sam Altman, they are the creators of ChatGPT, expose this type of ideas this past few days.
One of the things that is always unfair in this comparison is people talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life and all of the food you eat during that time before you get smart. And not only that, it took like the very widespread evolution of the 100 billion people that have ever lived in.
So this guy, the CEO of the most relevant AI company in the world, is not only comparing humans to robots in terms of job efficiency, but in terms of species efficiency, okay? He really thinks that it's better to have a robot to do stuff very fast compared to humans having to, in a way, train 20 years to do so. And in the part that he says that you need to feed humans, people laugh. He's not joking. He's really speaking about how much it's better to have robots to do stuff rather than humans, and not on a job level, but in a species level. And this guy, Sam Altman, in June 2025, he wrote this article in his blog called The Gentle Singularity, in which he presents his manifesto, his vision, his idea of what AI should do and how it should impact humanity in the short term, okay, in the 2030s. And the idea of singularity, he speaks about us as human species, that we have this main singularity that we are able to adapt to anything. And as part of that, we will be able to adapt to a world in which we don't have to work anymore because AI and robots are going to do the things. okay? And as he says, we're gonna find other beautiful things to do. So he speaks about the 2030s likely going to be widely different because of all of this abundance that the AI is going to give to us, and a new social contract is going to arise in which humans do anything else but work. So for this to happen in his vision, we need, or they need, not we, to get to the point that artificial intelligence gets the name of artificial general intelligence. Okay, so very quick here. Currently, AI has PhD level in most subjects, yet in others it can perform quite dumb, okay, quite even like a kid. So for instance, it can be amazing in biology investigation, but yet it could not count the amount of strawberries in a box, or when creating a photo, it will put six fingers, okay? So it's PhD level in most things, yet in others, it's yet far from that. That's called AI jackedness. In the AGI world, what we would see is that in each or any given topic, any given subject, AI would have at least the same or more intelligence and knowledge than the most intelligent human on that subject. Okay, so any subject we can think about, AI is going to be at least the same or more intelligent than our most proficient human. So in other words, what they would be doing is that the AGI would be more intelligent than the entire human condition, the entire human species combined. Okay, so in other words, AI would be capable of replacing any cognitive labor or job from the productive market. Okay, they could replace any sort of job. And then the ASI is artificial superintelligence, which is in each of these subjects, AI would be way more intelligent, in some cases up to the level that we wouldn't understand it. So the question is, would it be evil when it arrives to that? Well, there's a lot to resolve before that point, and we expect it not to be evil. But let's get back to the current situation, okay? The AI. PhD level agents. Apparently, it's not so easy to estimate the amount of agents in the world, but we can estimate that it's between 1.5 and 2 billion, or up to 3 billion agents in the world, according to the amount of users of these chatbots. And 3 billion PhD level agents can be very powerful. In our human history, we have experience of meeting together 50 PhD scientists in a project which was called the Manhattan Project, and that ended up with a nuclear bomb. Okay, we have the Oppenheimer movie, which explains it very, very well. And only 50 PhD scientists could manage to create something this powerful. Okay, what can we expect billions to do? And if we have billions of this, we might start to suffer what was called the gorilla problem. This was introduced, or is introduced, by Professor Stuart Russell. And what he presents is that some million years ago, gorillas started to identify that another species was getting more and more intelligent, okay? So they had two options, okay? Let's try kill them all because they were capable of, because they were stronger, or, I don't know, just see what happens. And probably one gorilla said, what's the worst thing that can happen? That they eat all of our bananas? And it was way worse than that from their perspective, right? So they lost any sort of freedom. And not only that, if humans decided to do so, we could exterminate the whole species in some weeks. So we decide not to do so, but they are no longer in control. So the gorilla problem is that currently, right now, we are standing as the gorillas, and we're giving birth to a more intelligent digital species that, why not, could really get into control of things. There's an Argentinian technologist called Santiago Ilinkis that he asks himself, okay, we never got to interact with a smarter, with a more intelligent species than ourselves, yet we constantly interact with less intelligent species. And maybe that's something that we can do to try understand how the future will look like if we don't do all the things that we need to do. So we've got mosquitoes, right? And these mosquitoes for us, yeah, they are not really loved by us. If we could exterminate them all, we have done it, we would have done it, but yet we didn't find a way to do so. Then we've got worms, right? They're neutral to us. We don't love them, but if we maybe kill one, it doesn't ruin our day. It's just kind of neutral feeling. And finally, we've got dogs. We totally love them. In some cases, they're treated as sons and daughters. So what he asks is, okay, let's decide. Do we want to be a mosquito, a worm, or a dog to this super intelligent new digital species? But in a more optimistic point of view, Professor Geoffrey Hinton some weeks ago said that he was optimistic because he understood that we have experience of interacting with a way more intelligent species than ourselves and yet be in control. And he says that that's the case of babies and their mothers. So whenever we are the baby, we are way less smart than our mother, but yet in a way we're in control, as the main objective of our mother is to ensure that we are okay. So if we find a way to build the systems that care about humanity the same way that a mother cares of its children, then we might be on the good track. So the overall aim is to ensure that humankind is okay. But yet again, we're far away from that, and we need to do loads of work before to get that. And what we know until now is that, according to Demis Hassabis, Google DeepMind CEO, the AI revolution in terms of job replacement is going to be 10 times bigger than the industrial revolution, but yet 10 times faster. So we need to act. We need to start speaking about this, as Tristan Harris says, because currently there is not a room of adults trying to figure this out, to resolve this. Currently, right now, we don't have presidents, authorities, prime ministers, international organizations trying to work this out. That's not happening because we are the adults. Everyone that is watching this video, you are the adult, and you need to speak up and try to help make this topic be the most relevant topic in any agenda in the world. And only in that way we will be able to ensure that regulations and anything that is needed will happen to avoid that we get to Wally's human dystopia, in which humans are completely irrelevant. So if you like this video, please like, comment, or share. I don't know if that's the way to say that. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in episode 3. Bye bye.